Got some issues here in the strawberry field that I need to take care of. Wouldn't be that big a deal if it wasn't for the 150 inches of rain that we've had this winter. We ain't gonna be able to get rid of all the water, but we can certainly help get rid of some. Like right through here, there's a little bit of a swag in this field, and these berries are just sitting here in soggy rows. You can see that it's not been that way the whole time because there's grass growing, and the grass would have never grown if it was this wet, but we just had such a ridiculous amount of rain. You can kind of see where the grass is kind of yellowed right through here, and that's where we got a standing water issue. So I need to try to pick out the lowest place, and I'm gonna cut ditches across the rows and try to get some of this water drained out, because you can see right now the strawberry plants still look halfway decent, but if we keep getting this 1 to 2 inches of rain a week and not enough pretty weather to dry it out, this is going to stand in water. Even if it does make strawberries, you won't hardly be able to pick them because they're in standing water. So I'm going to try to cut some trenches across here. Also, I'm going to walk the field and scout for spider mites. Two-spotted spider mites are something that we have. I won't say we have a problem with them, but we got to keep an eye out for them because they will really put a hurting on your strawberry crop. And you can see where the sand filters are sitting right up there in the corner. Just the other side of those is where our strawberry crop was last year, and we had not an infestation, but we did have some spider mite pressure that I had to spray. So there's a good chance that some of those spider mites overwintered in the weeds around the edges of the fields. So there's a good chance that we've got spider mites in these berries. And now here we are, mid-February. Now's the time to go ahead and try to get those knocked in the head if we can. And also we need to be spraying down our ryegrass because it's not too tall right here where this water's standing, but when you get out of the areas that are drowned out by the ryegrass, like up in here, you got ryegrass that is dang near knee high, and it's going to start laying over like this on top of the strawberries if we don't get ahead of it. You can see down through yonder where it's starting to lay on the strawberries a little bit. That's not good because that hinders airflow. If it would all stand up straight and pretty, it'd be great because we could put our row covers on and keep the row covers from beating on the strawberries when the wind blows, but it just don't work that way. I try to keep my rye as long as I possibly can because it holds the weeds back, but we can't let it lay over on top of the strawberries because it's gonna give us some disease issues if we do. So we got to get this sprayed. It's time to do an application of Roverall fungicide, which has to be done before you got any fruiting flowers. So those are some things that need to be taken care of, and in order to do that, I really want to get it to where the tractor is not going to destroy the field when we drive across here. So this is Chandler, is what this variety is we're sitting in right now. Now if you have got a small enough field that you can handle it, or if you got enough labor to come through and clean your berries about now, that is a tremendous help for them, because you see all this dead foliage from the Christmas freeze, especially with this wet weather that we're having. This junk like this, Y'all can't tell it from TV or phone, but this is like soggy wet, and that starts your botrytis. That'll start the fungus going, and all these dead blooms that are back in here. So going through the field, if you got a small enough field you can handle it, or if you got enough labor to make it happen and get it cleaned now in February, is ideal. All these little dead leaves right here are gonna rot all the way back to the crown, and they're gonna damage that crown. And you can see a little bit of fungi growing on there right now. So far I'm not seeing any spider mites. I've just been kind of going through the field, and there's no way that me and my wife and kids could even begin to clean 25,000 plants, which is what's out here. But I've been going through, and you kind of have to, in order to, let me see if I can get a good shot here. In order to do a good crown count, you've really got to get all the dead foliage off so you can see what you're looking at. And counting the crowns is going to tell us kind of where our crop is at and what kind of year we can kind of expect. And I'm going to try to show you how to do that. The easiest way to do it is to jerk the plant up, and then you can peel the crowns apart, and it's very easy to distinguish one from the next when you do that. But then you don't have that plant anymore. So right here, now that we got it cleaned, we can kind of see we have got that one's gonna split. That crown right there is in the process of splitting. So we've got, essentially we got three. There's another one over here to the side. Sometimes once they get to a certain size, it's a little bit difficult for me to distinguish main crowns from side crowns, but it looks like we got about 3 main crowns right here in the middle. And you can see why they're called that, because of the way they look. You got one that's starting right here. That may be a side crown, but regardless, this is definitely a main crown. This is definitely a main crown. And whether we call them side crowns or whatever, there's 1, 2, so there's 4 total. There's a side crown, that's 5. There's a 6th one. So this plant right here has 6 crowns. So for the middle of February, that is pretty phenomenal. If we can just keep them healthy and give them what they need as far as nutrition, that plant right there will make a really good yield. So that seems to be a pretty common, what I've been finding across the field. Now if you're in December and you're counting 6 crowns on a plant, you're probably gonna end up with a whole lot of tiny strawberries, and that's not a good thing. But 6 crowns this time of year, when we're coming up on go time, that's pretty good, considering that part of them are side crowns. The side crowns are going to be later berries, and they're not going to be near as big as your main crowns, but that is kind of what spreads the season out. I hope that shot was halfway decent and you could tell what I was talking about. I'm gonna go up here and check these sweet Charlies. Still haven't found any spider mites, which is a good thing. Alright, now these are the sweet Charlies. These should be our earliest strawberry that we grow. That's why we grow them. They're not going to yield like other stuff, but they are super early. And you can see we had a warm spell back in the winter, and there's a ton of dead blooms on these sweet Charlies. It would really benefit them a whole lot to be cleaned up, have all these blooms jerked off of them, because frost is going to get those blooms and they're going to rot. It's not an if, it's when. As soon as they get out far enough for the frost or the freeze to get them. But these plants, I'm a little bit concerned about the size of the strawberries on these, because we kind of had too many crowns on these back early in the winter. I would just about have to jerk these up, or I'd have to definitely pull all the blooms off and possibly pull up a plant in order to count the crowns, because they're getting so thick. But hopefully you could tell what I was talking about on that last little clip there. You see those little bullseyes on this leaf? That is typically one of the first things that I look for when I start looking for spider mites. And this plant has actually got an aphid on it. I don't know how good that's going to show up right there. Little green aphid. We have had in the past had a lot of problems with aphid as well, but we haven't in several years. Fortunately, the same chemical that we have to use to control spider mites also controls aphids. If you have a spider mite or an aphid problem, the chemical that I use is called acromite. It does a really good job of cleaning up. Usually you will have to hit it twice, because there's no way possible to catch all the reproductive stages of the spider mites at exactly the right time to kill the nymphs, the eggs, and the adults. So if you, and the chemical's just not gonna kill them all. So if you make an application and you kill all the nymphs and the adults, good chance you're gonna have to come back in about a week and hit them again to get the eggs that will then be nymphs or adults. So just keep that in the back of your mind if you're spraying for aphids or spider mites. That's the same, goes the same for both of them. This field is not going to be good. We had covered this field sometime in November to try to speed the growth along, and you see my destroyed row cover out there. And I think that's been kind of what a lot of people across North Carolina are seeing that had their berries covered early. The Christmas freeze came with so much wind, and you just couldn't keep covers on. So these berries were tender, not hardened off, because they had row cover on them. Then that strong wind blew the covers off, and that frost just hammered them. You can see these are really pitiful. I mean, it just smoked them back to the ground. They've still got a crown or two on them that didn't get wiped out. That one right there has actually got 3, maybe 2 and a side crown, but it's not going to be anything like the rest of the Camarosa. Get over here. Alright, here's the first row of Camarosa that wasn't covered. So you can see there's a huge, huge difference. Got some weeds starting to come on. Got about 5 weeks before the amigos will be back, and we will get all this mess cleaned up. I wish we could clean it up now, but we just ain't got the manpower. But these Camarosas are looking good. I think they're going to make a pretty decent crop over here if we can keep them healthy. And so far, I'm not seeing any spider mites to show you. If you're scouting your berry crop and you're thinking you might have some spider mites, based on the little lesions on the leaves like I showed you, flip the leaf over, get your camera focused on the bottom of the leaf, take a picture, and then zoom in, and you will see them. And I can't, fortunately for me, I can't show you a picture of one right now, but you can Google them. It'll look like a little semi-translucent parasite with 2 spots on his back. You'll know it right away. They are tiny though. Some people carry a magnifying glass with them. That's never worked out too good for me. I can't see good enough, I guess. But the cell phone with blowing the picture up seems to work really well. With the temperatures, with us starting to get some warm days, spring right around the corner, you really got to keep an eye on your diseases and your spider mites, 2 biggest things, because once the temperatures start turning up, it can really make that stuff explode in a hurry if you're not keeping a close eye on them. So it's important to be walking the crop regularly. And it looks like I've got a stopped up spillway in the pond that needs to be addressed. There was the culprit with a bunch of junk around it. Ooh, it's too cold for swimming. Putting T-post in front of you, spillway on the upper side, is a good way to find it, and also unstop it. Keeps the trash from going in the hole. Sometimes it allows trash to bunch up against it, but at least you can find it. Alright, this is the stuff I was talking about for spider mite control. It's good to not have these little ditches in a straight line because it slows the water down and helps to prevent some erosion. We're still going to lose a little bit of soil here, but there just ain't really no way around it. Better than losing a little bit of soil is better than losing a whole lot of crop. Well, it took about an hour. Down there where that mattock's in the ground's my first ditch. You can see the muddy water making its way down here to this low place in the terrace. Plenty of good grass here for it to filter through and hopefully leave most of the dirt up here before it gets down to the creek. But there's no bare ground that it's running across, so that's a good thing. But there's a bunch of water making its way down this hill. Look at all that mess. That should do a wonder for these berries right up through here. You can already tell from the rest of the video how much more vigorous the rest of the field was than what's going on here. So it's already stunted them some. I had somebody asking me the other day, commented on a video about the poly planter, and they asked if I didn't punch a bunch of holes in my drip tape with the poly planter. Right there is a pretty good illustration. You can see that that drip tape is a solid 4 inches down in the bed right there. I used to not do that. I used to let it run basically right up on top. But I have found that it's better all the way around like this. You don't have mice. You don't have as much problem with mice chewing it out in the row. You don't have as many problems hitting it with the water wheel transplanter, with the poly planter. Works out a whole lot better. So that's what I do on my drip tape. I think it smells like a fish pond. Water's stagnant. But I believe I'm gonna wrap this thing up. I appreciate you guys watching. We're fixing to really get wound up here, get real busy. So I'm gonna do my best to keep the videos coming. Biggest problem is editing, so I just got to get my tongue out of a knot where I can talk and have to do less editing, I reckon. I appreciate y'all watching, and I'll see you next time.